morning. Happy Saturday to you out here in state of Jefferson, Northern California. All of us up here wishing, giving, and praying that we get our way up here and step away from the state of California and start fresh. Tired of all this socialist policies up here. Wikiman Santos Vigil and I are sitting out here putting this show together a couple days ahead of Saturday. So if you're tuned in today, Saturday, we just are just a little bit ahead of you because I had to fly down to Southern California to attend a trauma intervention conference. It's a program that I run here in the Yuba Sutter counties. So once a year we get together somewhere in the United States, and just so it happens to be in Southern California, so I got to be away for the weekend. But welcome anyway. This is new material. It's not leftovers, warmed up, best of, worst of. It's just what's happening now out here in Northern California and the rest of the world. So if you want to call in, you can, but you'll probably get kicked into the answering machine. And I'm not quite sure whether the big kahuna listens to those machines. It says like there's 1,000 messages on that machine. I don't know whether he listens to those or just like dusts off and see what the number is. But a lot of times you can call in, of course, when we're normally live, and you can have a chat with Santos or maybe even get on the air if it works out. So, but tonight or today for you, tonight for us, you're not going to be able to dial us up unless you just want to leave attaboy or I hate you, never want to see you, never want to meet you, which either way is fine with me. There's so many stations and so many options. You can just like go out and mow the yard, listen to the lawnmower for 3 hours. But we are here for till noon today. And then after that, there'll be a sports talk show come on for a couple hours. Those guys do a nice job. If you're interested in sports, they know a lot about it, a lot more than I do. And I always, I like to listen to them. They're entertaining. So we are, let's see, what else should I tell you? A couple ways to listen to us. We should be live streaming. So if you're out there in a fringe area, we reach about into 5 different counties up here in Northern California. We broadcast out of Yuba County, one of the poorest counties in California. And if you're out there in a fringe area where the reception's kind of funky, you can go on your computer and go to kmycradio.com and then click on the Listen Live button or icon, whatever it is, and it should come in clear. If all else fails, and that fails, and everything else fails, you can go later to One Eye Blind Media on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and then type in One Eye Blind Media with a space between each word, and you'll get a channel there where there's a number of different recordings going on there, and they record our show. Chris Starkey does. He's the guy. And you can click on whatever show you want, whatever date, and listen. And it's a little bit different because they edit out some of the things that we're allowed to do here that can't go onto YouTube because of copyright restrictions. So there you have it. We are supported here. We do not get paid to be here, so we're talking for food. In fact, I just had a friend, a couple that I've been friends with for years. She said, Lou, we want to bring you dinner tonight. And so I said, yeah, that would be great because I'm going to have to go out and do this show tonight. And so when she showed up, she said, I brought you a salad and a tuna sandwich. But it really, because she knows I like tuna, but it really wasn't a tuna sandwich like you envision between 2 pieces of bread. It was like a big fish croissant, the shape of a fish, a croissant, right? Pastry, real light pastry. And in the inside of the pastry, shaped like a fish, was tuna fish and all flavored up and everything. Oh man, it was unbelievable. Then there was this really fancy pastry that I'm not even used to eating. And I ate a little bit of it. And I thought, I don't think I'm going to be able to drive to work. I'm going to have to get a designated driver from the apartments next door and get me out here. Man, it was good. So y'all out there that cooked for me tonight, thank you very much. And then when I I actually had forgotten what time we were going to do this tonight, so then I had to call back and say, hey, I got to get to the radio station, so they actually brought it over early. So thank you so much, and they came from Yuba City, and I told them it won't be too long when they get that new bridge built, we're going to charge to come into Marysville $5 a car, and you have to pay for a visa. Wouldn't that just put a toll like you go over the, over the Bay Bridge, get a little toll, make a few bucks. So that would be the end of my going to Yuba City right there, though, because I don't want to pay any money. Well, we're supported out here. I said all that to say this. We appreciate the other day we had Danny from out there at the big Jersey Mike Subs. He brought us lunch, and so we're still, like, remembering that. It took, like, days to eat that sandwich. We had took two of us to carry one of them out to the car. So anyway, if you want a great sub, Jersey Mike Subs, he was kind enough to drive some food over here a few weeks ago, and he listens to the show over there in the Walmart Shopping Center in Yuba City. We got people over at Huss Brothers. They bought some gun tickets. I was sad because we had a gun drawing at the Hank Sanchez Memorial Golf Tournament fundraiser that the Sanchez family puts on each year a couple Saturdays ago. And so the folks over at Mario and Irene over there at the Huss Brothers in Marysville across the hospital, they always buy gun tickets from me, but I was hoping they'd win. But one of the guys I know won, but I didn't even sell him a ticket. Drew Burlfine won the rifle. Did you know that? Yeah, he won the rifle. But I didn't know the other people that won it. But anyway, it really helped trauma intervention, so thank you very much. But we're also supported. We actually are helped by financially to go on the air here by the Yuba Sutter Republican folks. Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans are calling themselves, and they set up a headquarters over at 441 Bridge Street in Yuba City. It's right at the corner of Bridge and Shasta, right where Cookie Tree is, one of my favorite stops. And it's Suite E, and you can drop in there in the evening, I think from 5 to 8, and they have the place open, and you can pick up all kinds of signs. You can get Cox for governor, and I'm sure there's a variety of candidates. I know they're going to have, they're having events there one after another, interviewing candidates and such, but they got different conservative candidates that they're promoting. They have literature for, signs for, and so they also have signs, I believe, for Measure K, which is the measure in Yuba County to add more sales tax. We're paying 7.25 out in the county. We're paying 8.25 in the city of Marysville. We're paying 7.25 out in the non-city areas. And they want to raise that to 8.25. I'm going to talk more about that later. But if you vote no on Measure K, that means we put the kibosh on it and say, no, we think 7.25 is big plenty. On top of every time I want to spend $1, I got to give the state 7.25 cents. And then you can also pick up, which I kept saying last week, Proposition P. And everybody got up in arms. And because I was like having a dyslexic moment and too many drugs, and it's actually Proposition 6. And one of the deceptive things about Prop 6 is to repeal not all the gas taxes that you're paying. That would be great. But it's just to repeal the last bunch of gas taxes and increase DMV fees that we're paying. The increase was about 12 cents for gasoline, 20 cents for diesel per gallon, and then a minimum of $25 for the lowest cost cars, lowest value cars, up to I think $175 or something like that, between $100 and $200 for the most expensive cars. On top of what you're already on the gas taxes and the DM fees you're already paying. Now, there's two things that are going on that are deceptive against this campaign to repeal the tax. So if you want to stop taxes, you vote no on K and yes on 6. You got it? So here's what's, when the people of the state of California, when they signed petitions to put something on the ballot because they got steamed at the legislature for doing something that's wrong, when they put the item on the ballot, then it's up to the government in power gets to pick the title of the proposition. And what they do is they do it every single time when they don't want it to happen. They twist the words and they make it sound like something that it isn't, the proposition, so people will vote against it. You see what I'm saying? So the title of Proposition 6, when you see it on the ballot, instead of like what I would say is repeal road taxes, repeal the increase in road taxes and DMV fees from 2017 or something like that, right? That's exactly what we're doing, or 2016. In other words, we've been paying them for about a year. Repeal road taxes, increase in road taxes and DMV fees from a year ago or whatever. Instead, here's what they say. This is what's going to say on your ballot. It's very deceptive. Prop 6 eliminates certain road repair and transportation funding. Now, everybody in the state of California is like totally pissed and is mad. Why? Because the money that they've given to politicians for road funding, for transportation funding, adding lanes, adding freeways, adding overpasses, fixing culverts, fixing potholes, sealing roads, has been diverted to stupid social programs and given money to illegal aliens, right? So instead of using that money that they had, there's not a shortage of money in Sacramento for what we need. They only created a shortage on paper to make it look like they just said, we're not going to spend that money for roads, even though we took it from you at the gas pump and through your DMV fees. So they make it sound like you right now. I saw a guy post on the on Facebook or something, or somewhere in the paper or something. He said, well, I'm really against the increase in taxes. However, I don't want the road repairs to stop. Well, listen, at some point you're going to have to grow a pair and fight people ripping you off, right? So it's kind of like you buy a car and somebody steals your car and you just say, oh, well, okay, I'll buy another car. But you never do put any effort into getting your car back and getting the police to get your car back. You just keep buying cars. You just keep getting ripped off every time you get taxed. It's not like they haven't been taxing us for 100 years on roads, repairing roads, expanding roads. They've been spending the money on horse trails. Nobody I know is going to work and going to the grocery store on a horse around here. So this is very deceptive, because when you read it, it sounds like you want less funding to go to roads. No, we want more funding to go to roads, and we want the funding that we already paid before they passed, I think it was SB 1, to get this increase. And it's very deceptive. So when it says Prop 6 eliminates certain road repair and transportation funding, just ignore the description and vote yes. Yes to repeal. And let me tell you, a lot of times people say, it just doesn't make any difference voting. Actually, in some ways, I'm kind of with you. I'm getting tired of this. However, there's times where, like when we elected Donald Trump, do you think that was worth it? Do you conservatives out there? I think so. So let me just talk your pocketbook for a minute. Most of you are living hand to mouth out there. In other words, if I read the economic statistics right, most people in America are living from paycheck to paycheck. In other words, if they get laid off, they got about, in their savings, it's unbelievable for me to hear this, but I'm just going to believe what I'm told, that people have about a paycheck or so in the bank, and once that's gone, they can't pay their bills. So let me give you a clue here. I'm going to give you 2 tips. If we repeal this Prop 6, if we vote yes on Prop 6 and we repeal the tax, that's what I'm trying to say. Vote yes on 6 to repeal the tax. It's going to put about $700 in the average taxpayer's pocket. Now, if you own a car, you're a taxpayer. Now, maybe you don't pay a lot of income tax, but you're paying DMV fees, some of the highest DMV fees in the United States, and you're paying some of the highest road taxes in the United States before we got these increases. All this is going to do is repeal the increases. You got it? Now, I want to tell you, if you're living in the city of Marysville, in the city limits, I'm going to tell you how you can save a month's rent. So you don't have to pay 11 months' rent for a 12-month stay, and that is to move. If you're paying your own water and you're using quite a bit of water, in other words, it's expensive. In other words, you got a lot of kids, you're showering a lot of kids. Maybe you got to keep up the yard and you're watering the yard. Maybe your bill's $100 to $200 a month of water. You can afford to move to Yuba City, Linda, Olivehurst, even out in the county, and you can save enough money on water in 1 year to pay for 1 month's rent. Just a thought. So vote yes on 6. It's going to put $700 in your pocket in the first year. This is a 10-year tax that the legislature passed. That means that 10 times 700 is $7,000. That means you can save yourself $7,000 in taxes. If you don't think that's a bargain to get up and vote, to go out and register, you have until October 22nd to register to vote. Go down to the county clerk office. You can even do it online, I think, at the Secretary of State, sos.gov website. You can probably do it online. If you've moved to Sutter from Yuba, or if you shifted around a little bit, you can go back and vote where you came from, or you re-register, and they do all the logistics of moving your vote. So please vote. Save yourself $7,000 over the next 10 years. That's, to me, I don't know about you. I don't know your situation because I don't really know who I'm talking to. I think there's 55, 60 people out there we're talking to today, but I'm sure there's some of you that would like, over the next 10 years, you'd like to have $7,000 extra dollars. If I lived that long, I thought I got a lot of good uses for $7,000. Now, okay, so that's measure 6. Now, if you want signs, please, I have a sign on my front fence. I got a short little fence in front of my house. I got a sign on it. And I also have a sign for Measure K, even though I'm not in that county. I'm inside the city of Marysville. But I know there's a lot of county people that drive up and down my street to dropping kids off at school and eating over at the Dragon Inn and everything and Taco Bell. So I put a Measure K, no on Measure K. So Monty Hecker, one of our sponsors here, Monty Hecker helps us financially stay on the air here, and he runs Elite Universal Security, and he's at 5548 Feather River Boulevard. I call it West Linda, but now they've changed it to call it Olivehurst, but it's right off Feather River Boulevard, off the freeway, off 70, and it's just a quarter mile off the freeway. It's very fast, and I went over there and got signs last Saturday after I finished here. And you can grab signs 24 hours a day because it's a security business, and it's a dispatch center. It's 24 hours a day. You can drop in there, get signs for no on K and for Proposition 6. Proposition 6, you vote yes. That's put $7,000 in your pocket in over a 10-year period, $700 a year at least. Measure K is going to keep you from getting a 1% sales tax increase. If you're out there in the Yuba County, that means wherever in the world you want to buy your cars, you think, oh, I'm going to get around this. I'm going to buy my car in Sacramento and pay the less tax down there. No, you're not. You're going to pay the tax where you live, and they tax you where you live. So get a clue. If you don't know what you're talking about, I'm helping you. You're going to pay thousands of dollars. That Measure K is a 10-year tax as well. You're stuck with it for 10 years unless somebody wants to repeal it, and it takes a lot to get a repeal going. We got one going. P is going. If you vote for P, that's saying I want to repeal the extra, not all road taxes. Before we even had the increase of 12 cents and 20 cents, gas and diesel, and $25 to $175 per DMV fee, some states only pay $25, $50 a year. It's unbelievable. They just spend money like it's going. They just throw it out the windows. They throw $1,000 bills at the windows. The politicians never pay for any of their own gas. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're going to do 2.5 more hours. All right, welcome back. This is Live with Lou. We're here for 2.5 more hours, finish up at noon today. Been talking about the taxes that a lot of us are facing. I can't speak for some of the counties out there. I know Oroville is facing city tax. I think they're trying to do a 1% sales tax increase. They tried once before. It was defeated. And so all you out there, it's up to you in your various cities, counties, jurisdictions. It's up to you to do something. Here are the facts in every single city. The money that you have paid some of the highest taxes in the United States of America, wherever you're paying. You're paying local taxes. You're paying on school bonds. You're paying on utility bonds. You're paying on state income taxes. Some states don't even have a state income tax. You're also paying on federal income tax. Altogether, you're paying the heaviest load of taxes in the United States. At the same time, you have politicians that are saying you're not paying enough. What's happening is that politicians never cut back. I mean, significantly cut back. Certainly when there was a downturn in 2007 and 2008, there was so little money coming in from what there was in the few years before that there was no money to pay people. And it was too fast of a drop to go out and get people to pay more taxes. And so, but in general, they're expanding the jobs and they're increasing the pay. So I was mentioning an organization, Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans. They are activists. They're not your central committee, which are basically in our counties pretty much do-nothings. But these are activists, and they're meeting, as I mentioned, over in Yuba City. But it isn't just about meeting. They're interviewing candidates. So they're interviewing candidates there, and they're also having events on air here, and that's called the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight. It's from 1 p.m. to 3 on Sunday. Every Sunday they're here. And so a group of them are either discussing current issues or candidates, or they actually have candidates that are coming on the air sometimes and they're interviewing them and they're explaining things on the air. But they're also personally bringing people in and talking to them that are running to find out really what they're claiming they're going to do, to see who they're going to endorse at the end of the day. So if you want to get involved with here's the deal, people. If you do the same thing you've always been doing, I want you to look around. They keep calling this the swamp. It's the toilet. And what we need to do is flush the toilet, not drain the swamp. Somebody said the other day, actually, swamps are purposeful in our ecological world, the environment. They're purposeful. Toilets just need to be flushed, folks. And I'm going to talk more about that later. We have people in our government, thousands of employees that are trying to undermine and destroy and sabotage and vandalize the workings of our government because they don't like who got elected. That is plain wrong. It's illegal. They should be fired, etc. So you could call, I give you Tammy Reichard. She's the treasurer of the Constitutional Republicans. If you want to find out more information or get literature or catch the next event they're going to do, 530-701-2845. 530-701-2845. I was talking about Proposition 6, not P6. And 6, all of you that can hear my voice all over the state of California, all 58 counties are going to be voting on 6. It all started, the big uproar started, and the repeal started of the road taxes. It started down in Orange County, and they already recalled the Todd Newman. Is it Todd Newman? I think it's Todd Newman. Newman is the last name. He was a freshman senator, state senator, and he pushed them into the supermajority, and he was the deciding vote, and they said, we're done with you already. They didn't even let him get 4 years in. They just booted him out. So now we have a chance up and down the state. Listen, Jerry Brown and politicians can use their campaign funds. They're using 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars of campaign funds, along with union campaign funds, along with firefighter and law enforcement campaign funds, to stop the repeal of this tax, as if it's the only money we're ever going to have for roads. It's a lie. It's all a lie, and you're going to be bombarded with it through every media and on your Facebook sites, everywhere. They're going to be bleeding a big old sorry story. It's all a lie. You just got to make your mind up. You're either going to force them to reform their ways, or they're going to take all your money, and they don't have any problem with that. They do not care about you. All these taxes, these sales taxes, DMV fees, are what they call regressive taxes. That means they hurt the poor the most. And you think, oh, I thought Democrats, they cared about the working man, the poor. They do not. Oh, I thought they cared about women. They do not. Abortions, what are they, 3,000 or 4,000 a day? Half of those or more are women. Oh, I thought they cared for the blacks. They're killing about a few hundred blacks a day on abortion. They will go down swinging to stop any abortions. They want to abort as many kids as they can, and they'll fund it with your tax dollars. So you're either going to have to take a stand if you just sit and watch your TV programs. You never put a sign up. You never give a donation. You never go to a meeting. You never get informed, and you wait till after the election and learn. Well, I didn't know that, right? I didn't know that. Don't be stupid, right? Don't be stupid. Nobody ever wins the race. It's stupid. So contact Tammy Reichert and get involved. 701-2845. Listen to the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight tomorrow from 1 to 3. All right, now Monty Hecker, I mentioned, where he has signs for you, all kinds of signs. He's got signs for 6, repeal the road tax. He's got signs to stop the sales tax in Yuba County for K. He's also got signs. I picked up a Governor Cox. I just had it for about an hour, and somebody took it from me. They just said, I want that Cox sign put in my yard. So I got to get me another one. So, but he's got signs out there at 5548 Feather Boulevard. Now, Monty runs a Elite Universal Security. They work all around my house because there's lots of problems in downtown Marysville. And so the businesses have had to hire Monty and his Elite Universal Security because they got all kinds of people that are loaded on drugs trying to mess with people, coming in and out of pharmacies and in and out of restaurants and all that kind of stuff. And so they've had to, you pay taxes for the police, but when the police can't get it done, when there's too much nonsense going on, you got to hire private security. That's what Monty provides. So if you got problems in your neighborhood, house, farm, whatever, check in with Monty and he'll help you. Now they got some. If you need to qualify, you want to. I was just talking to somebody the other day about. I think it was John Missler, John, who runs the Territorial Dispatch, and we were talking about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution says that we have a right to bear arms. It does not say you need a permit. It does not say you need to qualify. It does not say jack. It just says you got a right, right? And it doesn't say you couldn't wear the gun on your hip walking down the street or carry it over the shoulder walking down the street. But little by little, legislators have encroached upon our rights. You think, oh, we still have a right to have a gun. Yeah, all the hoops you got to jump through. So Monty is trying to help you keep legal. And October 13th and 14th, they're going to have on the 13th, they're going to have the classroom session on initial exposed firearms and your CCW or concealed weapon classroom training. And then the next day they go to the range, and then some of you that need to requalify, they'll have that as well. So you can call them up out there. Call them up at 749-0280, 530-749-0280. Go on their website at API Academy, API-academy.com. They got all kinds of classes if you want to get involved in the security business. They teach you how to tase people, spray people, cuff people, take people down, all that kind of stuff. So check them out. Well, there's a lot going on and around the nation, and even at the top political levels, people are incredibly stupid and lack any critical thinking. And so I saw this and I thought this is typical of the thinking of today. A Tennessee couple, both rednecks, had 9 children. They went to the doctor to see about getting the husband fixed because they had 9 kids already, right? You see this? Do you know what I'm saying? Wiki's laughing already. I haven't even got down. I only did 2 sentences. The doctor gladly started the required procedure, and if you've ever had this procedure done, if you're a male, you can actually have a discussion while this happens. So he started to have the procedure started, and he asked the husband and wife why they finally made him make the decision. Like after 9 kids, why'd they do this? So the husband said they read a recent article that 1 out of every 10 children born in the United States was Mexican. And they didn't want to take a chance on having a Mexican baby because neither of them spoke Spanish. Now, that's the kind of logic that has people vote yes on or no on 6 or yes on K because they get their head filled with a bunch of crap, or some gal shows up 150 years after they were out of high school and says, he touched me. And all of a sudden, and all these people, whereas the Democrats, they have a hall of fame of rapists and perverts that are still living, and nobody's doing anything about them, and their victims are still living. Nobody's doing anything about them. But he touched me 150 years ago, and the lady can't even remember when it happened, where it happened, if anybody was there, or if they were there, why didn't she bring them forward? I mean, it's just such a bizarre thing. It's like this thing. They said, hey, if I have a 10th baby, I may be a Mexican, and we don't know how you communicate with a child because we don't speak Mexican. Just a thought. Honestly, people, it's that stupid. So let me just read this to you. Who is this Christine? I hate these people that have three or 4 names. Christine Blasey Ford. Like, get over your ego trip. She's supposedly some professor. So it says she's a professor with a 2.4 rating. I didn't even know what a 2.4 rating was. That's below average, by the way. Students give professors ratings, and she's a professor at some school down in Palo Alto, which is kind of a no-name school. And so it says students that like her wrote, don't get on her bad side. She's very dark. She will go after you if she gets upset. This is a gal that after 35 or 40 years got up one morning and realized that Brett Kavanaugh is going to be voted on to be a Supreme Court justice, and she got a bean up her nose. She didn't even have sex with the dude. She just thinks he touched her. It came up in a dark moment in counseling somewhere in the United States. Her parents had a foreclosure case. This sounds like a really good set of parents, right? Couple winners, like the couple I just read to you, fearful that the 10th kid might be a Mexican. Her parents had a foreclosure case ruled against them by Brett Kavanaugh's mother, who was also a judge. It was in Maryland it happened. So they lost that case, and maybe they have a bean up their nose. Christine Blasey Blowhard Ford is a liberal activist. She was in the march, the Vagina March, pink hat and all, protesting Mr. Trump. You remember that? She's an activist. She isn't just somebody that's votes liberal. She gets it on. On Facebook, she wrote in 2016, Scalia, Judge Scalia, the judge that died in an unusual manner, that Gorsuch replaced. Scalia's types must be banned from law. So that's kind of her take. Usually people think Judge Scalia was a brilliant jurist. On the allegation, she can't remember the house, nor the location, how she got there, who had the party, and a couple years ago she couldn't remember names during counseling. She told her best friend she was an alcoholic back then. I'm honestly, man, an alcoholic? She's only 15. She was an alcoholic back then and regretted the number of partners she had. Well, okay, well, that's a little too much information. So we have finally a family revenge, a dark side that is retaliatory, contempt for conservatives, and no facts. Sounds like she'll get a book deal, right? This is the hypocrisy of the left. Let me give you another example. In 1999, Jesse Jackson, who still uses the word reverend, unbelievable. Was it his teenage secretary he knocked up back in the day? It was ridiculous. But these guys are just pimps is what they are. In 1999, Jesse Jackson awarded Donald Trump a Lifetime Achievement Award for helping the poor in 1999. In 2016, he called him a friend who embraced underserved communities. Now that he's a president, he's a racist, and we need to get rid of Electoral College because Hillary should have won. Here's another one. These things are just fascinating to me. Dick Durbin. I don't know. I can't even look at the guy. There's so many of these people. They're lying. You ever have somebody you know is lying? You got to listen to them. They're talking to you right there in the face, and you know they're a liar. And you just think, God, should I just sock that guy, beat him to death? Do I have to put up with this? So at least on YouTube, or if you have a television, you could turn it off. But I'm honest, I used to feel that way about Obama. The guy would give me the flu every time I heard his voice. Anyway, Dick Durbin says these people have lost their mind. He says if the Me Too movement has taught us anything, it is that we must respect and listen to survivors of sexual assault, regardless of the age of those involved or when the alleged attack took place. And you think of all these women that have been assaulted, molested, raped, jerked around by people that are just prominent Democrats, and he makes a statement like that and keeps it with a straight face. I saw a picture of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's the gal that was it Trump's State of the Union or Obama's last one, where she was totally folded over, sleeping. She needed one of those C-spine collars so she didn't get whiplash. But they made a joke about her claiming that Abraham Lincoln grabbed her ass in 1862. It's like, anybody can claim anything. So anyway, I'm going to let me see here if I don't want to jump ahead here too far. Okay, I'm all right. I've been really enjoying looking at some history and pulling out some historical facts that we normally don't get taught. You remember Rosa Parks? She's the lady in the civil rights movement, and in 1955, she got on a bus, and at that time buses were segregated, and she would not give up her seat on the bus. Remember Rosa Parks? 1955 that occurred. Well, the interesting thing is, maybe you've heard of Rosa Parks. Most of us had that went through school in the 60s, but I don't know whether they teach much about it now because I'm not taking those classes. But there's a lady that I think is even so much more amazing. Her name is Ida B., initial B, Wells. Ida B. Wells. That's what she normally went by. She had a married additional name like Barnett or something, but Ida B. Wells is her name. And she refused to give up her seat 71 years before Rosa Parks. You ever heard of Ida B. Wells? No? Well, I hadn't either, but I loved it when I stumbled across this, and so I've been reading up on Ida B. Wells. And so let me just tell you a little bit about her so you'll be more informed when you get snowed from the liberals. I think maybe one of the reasons you never heard about her was Ida B. Wells was a Republican. She was born on July 16th, 1862, and she passed on, as the blacks like to say it, she passed on March 25, 1931, long time before we think of the Civil Rights Movement. But there was a Civil Rights Movement long before the Jesse Jacksons and Martin Luther Kings of the world, right? You just haven't been taught that, right? Just because you haven't been taught that in school doesn't mean it isn't a fact or real. So Ida B. Wells Barnett, more likely known as Ida B. Wells, was an African-American investigative journalist, educator, and an early leader in the Civil Rights Movement. She was one of the founders of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, usually called NAACP. She is arguably one of the most famous black women in America. Certainly was during the years she was living and afterward, right after. She fought prejudice and violence. Wells was born into slavery in Holly Springs, Mississippi. She was freed by the Emancipation Proclamation during the American Civil War. She lost both her parents and a sibling in a yellow fever outbreak in 1878. She was just 16 years of age, and she didn't go down to welfare department and get on welfare or go get a big handout. She went to work. She didn't shoot drugs. She didn't smoke weed. She didn't become an alcoholic like the gal that Kavanaugh was supposed to molested. She wasn't an alcoholic. She went to work and kept the rest of the family intact with the help of her grandmother. So Ida and her grandma held the kids together. She moved with some of her siblings to Memphis, Tennessee, where she found better pay and became a teacher. Isn't that amazing? This is back, she died in 31. You think, oh, there were blacks that were teachers, there were blacks that were writers. I thought they were all shooting heroin and drunks and stuff and on welfare. Well, we didn't have welfare back then. So she actually went to work. People actually went to work back before they just gave handouts, Democrats, right? Did you know that Lyndon B. Johnson said, with talking about his welfare program during the war on poverty, that he said, we'll keep those niggers voting Democrats for 200 years. That's how he talked about them. Isn't that despicable? He just bought them off. He just paid them like a prostitute. She moved some of her siblings to Memphis. She became a teacher, and soon she co-owned a newspaper called the Memphis Free Speech and Headlight. I want you to think about this. This is a black person owning a newspaper. Have you ever thought about black people owning newspapers back in the 1920s? They did. In the 1890s, Wells documented lynchings in the United States. In other words, wherever she would hear about a lynching, she would go research it and find out what happened and document it and write about it. She showed that lynching was often used in the South as a way to control or punish black people who competed with whites. What do I mean by that? They competed for jobs. The same thing that the unions do now in stopping competitions against them, whites did against blacks. And the lynchings, rather than being for criminal acts like, oh, a black had sex with a white woman or something like that, rather than being based upon criminal acts, which they would often say, they really were wanting to scare the hell out of blacks so they wouldn't compete and go down there and get a job where a white person could get the job. For her reporting, Ida B. Wells, her stories and her reporting about lynchings were carried nationwide in black newspapers. So I'm teaching you something here. You didn't think that, you thought that all the newspapers were white, blacks were too stupid. Did you believe your college professors in the 70s that taught that blacks were a different race from whites and they were less advanced, they were more closer to the monkeys, and so they were more like a monkey, that weren't very smart? Is that what you believed? Well, you were stupid, right? They were telling you it was raining and they were pissing on your boots in college and charging you big time down at UC Berkeley or wherever you went. And so black people were getting it on. Black people were educating their own people in spite of the fact that the public school system would not give them a seat. Black people were starting newspapers. And so Ida B. Wells' documenting of lynchings in the United States and what caused each lynching and the name of the person that died and what really went down, that information went out through all the black newspapers. And for that, her newspaper was destroyed by a mob of white men, destroyed the presses. Subject to continued threats, Wells left Memphis and resettled in Chicago. She married and had a family of 6 kids. While continuing to work, she wrote. She was an author, a speaker, a very good speaker, a well-renowned speaker, and she was an organizer for the civil rights movement for the rest of her life. She also was an organizer for voting rights, or what they called the women's suffrage movement. She was outspoken regarding her beliefs as a black female activist and faced regular public disapproval, which included leaders that had differing viewpoints even amongst the civil rights movement and the voting movement. You wonder why I haven't heard from her? About her? Well, her parents were Republicans. And she was a Republican. You thought the Democrats started the NAACP? Because you probably can't find a Republican over there anymore? Well, Republicans, black folks were Republicans. And the reason they were is Republicans were not into slavery. Conservatives were not into slavery. And that would be the Bible-believing folks that were against slavery. Some Bible-believing folks got a little confused and were for slavery, but these are the Bible-believing and conservative folks that were anti-slavery. And so blacks, if you notice where blacks got elected, they got elected as Republicans to the legislative houses at the state level and the United States level. They were much more active than you were taught to believe in your local schoolroom. I wonder why. Well, the people who actually designed those textbooks are liberal folks, and they just conveniently leave out all these people like Ida B. Wells. Okay? So that's that. Now, this is the other thing that, if Trump is doing so bad, it's like one day you hear Trump is doing really good, then Trump is doing really bad. So Obama says Trump is doing really bad, but then he says he's taking credit for the economy. How does that work? Trump is doing really bad, but then he's going to take credit for the economy. Obama claimed America would never again see 3% economic growth, right, per month or quarter, because Obama could never get it up there, right? In other words, his policies always stood in the way of that, but he would never admit that. Now Obama takes credit for 4% growth that we have under Trump. Obama's taking credit. Although before he said that was impossible, but once he left the presidency, now it's possible. Now he takes credit for it. Trump is he's just on cruise control. And if you wondered why we need, somebody asked me the other day, do I have keys they said, Lou, don't you have a set of keys to Glad Tidings? I said, they've changed the keys so much since I left. I think I'm out of the loop again. They said, you could have keys. I said, I don't think I need keys. Why in the world would we allow people like John Kerry and all these people have security clearances when they're running around the world thinking they're still running the government? This is a sign that I need to quit talking. We'll be right back. All right. Well, we're on to our second hour. I think, are we second hour? Is that what we're on? I've lost track of. We're in the middle of the night here talking. And if you're just tuning in, you want to dial us up, we are not here on Saturday, but we pre-recorded this so you could listen on Saturday. We couldn't be here. I couldn't be here specifically. So you'll get an answering machine. Don't get frustrated. It's just like we couldn't be here. So we did the best we could, as we don't want to do reruns and all that kind of stuff. So I was talking before we took a break that Obama is running around claiming that America would never see, back in the day before he left the presidency, we just couldn't get the country back to where it used to be as an economic firehouse or firepower. And get up to 3% economic growth. And since Trump took over, and he's just been there a couple of years, we got it to 4%. So now, although he said it wasn't possible, he's taking credit for it under Trump. But what I ended up saying is that if you heard recently, John Kerry was over negotiating something with the Iranians, right? And he really has no position or authority to do so on behalf of the United States, and it's actually against the law. There's a law, federal law, that private citizens cannot just go without being endorsed or sent by the President of the United States. They can't just go do that. But of course, the law in the United States at this time only applies to certain people. So it does not apply to anybody with the last name of Clinton or Obama or like Brennan or Comey or Mueller or McCabe or Strzok. There's just, or if the people are in the higher echelons of the government, even if they molest someone, rape someone, whatever, they get a different law than the average citizen does. So that's just the way it is. Now, for all you socialists out there, I'm wondering if you've ever had any Venezuelan food. Have you ever had any Venezuelan food? Haven't? Well, neither have any Venezuelans lately. There's nobody eating down there. For all you socialists, why don't you grab a ticket, or maybe you could go overland, because I don't know how many planes are flying in now out of there nowadays, and go down there and see if you can grab a taco or something down there, or some beans and rice. See whether you can pull that off down there. Everybody wants to be a socialist, but nobody wants to live under those kind of rules unless you're in charge. Did you hear that Berkeley is now declaring they want to have what they call Green Monday? That means that they're passing a resolution to City Council to go all vegan on Mondays. So isn't that crazy? Now, they're saying at any government meeting you could only present vegan food. And they're not trying to control people. They're just trying to make people conscious of the tremendous cost of animal husbandry to the earth, and try to get people to think vegan rather than eat an animal. And so this one gal from the Berkeley City Council I watched on YouTube, she said, this is amazing where people just come up with these statements like they're God in the flesh, right? And they know what's going down. She said that 1/3 of all global warming was being caused by methane gas from animal husbandry. Now, honestly, people, I wonder if the gal could even spell husbandry. It's just unbelievable. People are crazy. Now, let me just these are like just little things I'm throwing in for free. I'm not going to send you a bill on this. I travel. I used to be in Mexico quite a bit, down around Tijuana. And when I'd go down there, we were doing construction in the Otay Mesa side of Tijuana. And when I'd go down there, they had all these food carts and fruit carts and selling stuff on the street. And I just thought it was great. So if you didn't want to take time to go in and sit down and wait for a waiter and go through all the hullabaloo and all this stuff, you just want to grab some food, you could just grab some food or a drink or whatever. So then when I went to Vietnam, it was the same. Really cool. I mean, they drink a lot of coffee over there. They grow their own coffee over there. Really good stuff. And so there's all these coffee carts, and you can get these smoothie drinks and all, because they got lots of cool tropical fruits. So, and you can get soup, and you could get eggs, and I mean, you could just get it out on the street off carts. And you can buy all kinds of other stuff on carts. And I always thought this whole thing around the United States of always making you put up a building, for one, it stops entrepreneurs. A lot of people, they got a great idea, but they can't, they don't have the money to put up a building and all the big foo-for-all, right? They just want to do a food truck. And I don't know whether you remember when the downturn in the economy came around 2007, 2008, people went out on the streets with signs advertising their business because it was free. They put little sandwich boards, and they put those little flags up with their name on them or sale. And I remember, I think it was the city of Yuba City really got up in arms about that, and they thought, hey, you can't be out just advertising any way you want. In fact, Marysville actually has run people totally out of town. In fact, an ice cream shop that had a place downtown Marysville, and they put a sign on the back of their building up at the second story to advertise to people coming off the East Street Bridge, and the city of Marysville made them take it down. And so they eventually went out of business because they couldn't draw enough people down there. And so the government always wants to run your business. And then when you make a profit, then they take a profit like as if they did something, right? They always want to take a cut. And in the meantime, they tell you how to buy insurance and the kind of insurance you got to have, and when you can open and when you can close, and how many hours people can work, and you got to pay them a certain wage. It's like, whose business is it anyway? I thought this was free enterprise. I thought this was America, land of the free. Well, it's becoming more and more socialist, and it's becoming that way in little increments. That's why it sneaks up on you, right? It's kind of like when you get fat. If you woke up one day and you had 50 extra pounds on you, you would just totally have a meltdown. But because it sneaks up on you like 1 ounce at a time, all of a sudden you gain 40 or 50 pounds. And like then you think, oh my God, look at me in the mirror. Well, all of a sudden you look at the fact Second Amendment rights, you got to go get a permit to get a gun, right? All these restrictions of getting a gun. And then I'm going to talk about this next, about marijuana. You know, they passed a law. You can have, if you're sick, you can get a medical marijuana card and you can have marijuana, right? Now they passed it so you can have recreational marijuana. Now they got all these rules, make it very difficult, even though it's supposed to be legal. And everybody wants to tax 15% here, another 10 over here. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Jerry Brown, the governor of California, did something I liked, because these vendors were getting harassed. They were getting harassed by businesses that were these, what I call brick and mortar businesses. They got, like they got a business in a building. And they said, we don't want those food vendors. They're competing against us, and they don't have to play by the same rules. Well, the capitalism should be wide and woolly, right? If people can sell coffee off a coffee cart and save people running down to their favorite corner coffee shop, let them buy it. If they want to roll a cart up to the courthouse where there's 100 people working in there, let them do that. So Senate Bill 946 was passed, and Governor Brown signed it. It's statewide legislation that regulates street vending practices. In other words, it says you can have it. Now, the thing I don't like about it, I like it and I don't like it. It says California cities cannot ban vending in parks, and cities cannot determine where vendors can operate unless there's a health, safety, or welfare concern. Now, that's where it gets really tricky, right? Really tricky. And, or, you know what, well, let me say the third one. And street vendors are no longer required to ask permission from adjacent businesses to operate. So they were having a lot of problems, I think, down in the Los Angeles area. And so this is a step in the right direction. Is it going to solve it? No, because what they can do is make the taxes and health regulations and business license so difficult that people selling fresh fruit or bacon-wrapped hot dogs, oh, that sounds good, bacon-wrapped hot dog. That don't sound bad right now. I'm going to go home and have some more of that tuna fish I got. Man, I only could eat half of it, man. It was huge. When street vendors violate the law, local governments can fine the offenders or repeal operating licenses. So in other words, they're saying you can't just say blanket, we don't do trucks or we don't do these vendors. And I noticed in Yuba County, and I think in Sutter County, I see those fruit guys, those Mexican guys primarily, they're slinging fruit off those carts, right, making fruit cups and stuff. And let's see, what else is going on? Well, the trucks are around, so the trucks are happening. But I don't know a lot of the rules, but I like the idea that they're opening up because I think it's cool. And so when you have big soccer matches or you got things going on, big collections of people, they can just roll in there and sling pizza out the side of the truck or fish and chips or tacos or whatever. And I just think the more freedom, the better. And what we need to be watchdog over at our city council meetings is that they don't legislate, or even the county board of supervisors, they don't legislate these people out of business and harass them to death. You remember that truck there used to be a truck that sell tacos out there because there's no stores, hardly any stores out there, Lake Plumas Lake, you know. So they got Walgreens, they got another store, but people want to grab a little food. They drive all the way to town or go out to Wheatland or Lincoln or something. So anyway, there was a Mexican food truck out there, but then pretty soon they caught them selling methamphetamines. That's when they sold it Mexican food. It was Mexican food. So anyway, I thought that was cool and good for them, and at least that's a good law. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about this marijuana thing and about the 5th District race for supervisor. 5th District is in Yuba County, and it's in the foothills. It bumps up into, I think, of course, Nevada County. I think it also bumps up into Plumas County and even over into Butte County, because I think some of our tip calls, we ended up where we get sheriffs from both flavors. So Nevada, so it's the edge of Yuba County, 5th District, foothills, but it also includes north of the city of Marysville, what we call the District 10 farming area, and they tell me that it's got a little bit of Linda in it. So there was a race. The primary had Randy Fletcher, the incumbent. Mr. Wright. I can't remember his name's fading right now from me. I'll catch it in a minute. Mr. Wright, who was running, and then John Missler, who runs the Territorial Dispatch, and also was a supervisor for 4 years back in the 90s. Alton Wright. Thank you very much. That's what the Wikipedia guy over here is. We're solving it left and right. Alton Wright, Randy Fletcher, John Missler. So John was a supervisor for 4 years, and he's lived up in the foothills for probably longer than the rest of them, for almost 40 years, I think. So anyway, I was looking on Facebook this morning, and I saw our friend The Fish, John Black, was running an interview thing. They do an interview every morning over at was it 93Q? Is that what they call it? So they were doing an interview over there, and it comes across Facebook, so I was watching it because I wanted to see what's happening. I see some interesting people that I know there, and I like to listen to them. So have my coffee and have it on. So John Missler was there, and he was being interviewed by John Black. And so what happened in this race is in the primary, Missler was third out of three. So typically the third person doesn't get to run in the final, but you can actually run in the final if you go in as a write-in. I didn't know that. That was news to me. But somebody knew that and contacted John and said, listen, we don't like either of the alternatives, and we think you need to run again in the general election to give people an option, because we don't like the options. They're different, but they're not good options. So John's in the race, and he was listing the reasons. John Black was saying to Missler, well, why are you running? Why are you doing this? Why are you going about this? Give me some reasons. So he was talking about, first he talked about the water agency nullifying the people signed petitions to put a referendum or a measure on the ballot to have some say in how this water and power money coming into the water agencies being spent in Yuba County. It's like $50-60 million a year sometimes. And so it benefits all the people in the county, kind of like Alaskans. If you've lived there a year or you were born there, you get a little royalty check, could be $1,000, $2,000 a year from the royalties off the Alaska oil drilling, right? You get some benefits. Everybody does. Everybody plays, everybody wins, besides the government taking the rest of the money. So they were discussing that, how John said that he felt that the Yuba County Water Agency violated the Constitution when they took the right of the vote away from the people of Yuba County because they didn't want to lose any power over that money, their power, their personal power, their political power over the power and water revenue. So that was one thing, but then John Black brought up the marijuana issue. And I didn't realize this. You know John Black, right? Yeah. John has fought for years. I've known John for decades, and John has fought some really debilitating. I mean, most people that have one of John's problems that's a big much, but he's got some debilitating illnesses, right? MS is one of them. Yeah. He's had it for years. And he started saying, John Black kind of took over the conversation from Missler and what kind of went on a rant in a good way. And he just said, I've been fighting these illnesses for years, but I'm very active and I've done a lot of good things for the community. And I've been using marijuana for years to help take the edge off the symptoms. And he said, I don't really care what other people say about it. I know what's helping me. And he said, it's now legal, and I wish they would just leave me alone, right? And stay out of my business. In other words, I'm not harming anybody. I should be able to grow a few plants without getting a permit and without building a $20,000 shed in the back. And I've been trying to explain to people that the iterations or the renditions or editions of the marijuana ordinance in Yuba County have been laughable. The first one was so bizarre that deputies would have to know how many acres you had to determine how many plants you could get, and they were allowing people to have all kinds of huge numbers of plants, and they couldn't enforce it. And so the cartels literally took over the foothills. It was just nonsense. So the people, instead of like when the people of the state of California voted to allow medical marijuana use, instead of like being cooperative and helpful, like when my brother-in-law got sick, I no longer was involved in the drug scene, and he had brain cancer and lung cancer, and he was dying, and he said, Lou, I heard this marijuana might help. I don't know anything about it because he never used it. He said, can you find me some? I'm desperate. My sister said, we're desperate. So I got him a half pound. And so I didn't think a thing about it. I didn't think they were doing something wrong. I've watched my parents die of cancer, taking morphine, some really gnarly drugs to take the pain off. So to me, whether people are drinking, a guy can sit in his house and knock down a fifth of liquor and we don't get diarrhea over it. So what's the difference? So John Missler, to me, has been a sane voice. Like, let me tell you this. before we go to a break, and I'll carry this over. One of those first ordinances they passed, if you rented your acreage out, say you had 5 acres and a house, and you'd moved and you rented your old house out to some other folks, and so without you knowing it, they grew some marijuana in your acreage. And Yuba County goes over there, and say you moved and you're living in Colorado now, but you had a house and property here, and so all of a sudden you get a notice from Yuba County saying they're fining you because you got marijuana on your property, but it wasn't your marijuana. That's your renters. People were fined $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 by these crazy supervisors and their crazy county council. Now that to me is bizarre. We pay about $1 million, I think $1 million a year or something like that for these idiots over there in the county council office. Not one attorney and some legal secretaries, a whole bunch of them. And they could not come up with a simple, kind, freedom-loving ordinance that was easy to enforce and wouldn't get cops shot. Instead of focusing on going for the cartels and the big illegal growers, they piddled around with little grows in people's backyards and it went nuts and harassed people and ended up suing people that had rentals. It's just crazy the way this thing went. They lost their minds. We need a different supervisor in there. Randy Fletcher's been in there involved in that, and it's nonsense what they did. They should have an ordinance that is very simple, and people shouldn't have to get a permit to grow 6 plants or 9 plants or whatever they're going to grow. And they shouldn't have to have a permit to grow outdoors as long as they have it covered and don't offend their neighbors. Why can't we have it? Why do they have to have a $20,000 or $30,000 building with a permit and all that baloney? Why not just come up with the basic greenhouse that's a minimum? Now, and so anyway, John Missler was, let John Black go on a rant because he said, hey, I'm going to do it and quit bothering me, government. I thought, hey, way to go, John. You're making John Missler's argument. So the marijuana people who think Alton Wright is backed by a number, like any candidate's backed by a number of different demographic groups. One of the groups is the big grow people that are cartel type people, and they're kicking money into the Alton Wright campaign. And that's a bummer for me because those are the type of people that will shoot you or shoot the Yuba County Sheriff's Office. And that ain't cool for me. And so we'll be right back. We got another half a show to do. All right. Lou Benninger here. We're starting the second half of our show. We're running up to noon today, and then we'll have a sports talk show come in behind us. Santos and I are out here for 3 hours today, and if we're sort of live. We're not sitting here, but it's a new show. We did a couple nights ahead of time because I couldn't be here. So if you call and it rings, and then goes to voicemail, you probably won't get a call back because we're gone, and the big kahuna probably won't call you back unless you want to pay a bill or something. But you could leave a message. I'm not sure whether the messages are listened to them by the folks that run the show here or not. So this is the Patriot, 1410 AM. We're out here on Mount Huth up in the state of Jefferson, Yuba County. And we've been talking about the 5th District race, which is the hill, what we call the hill area of Yuba County. Foothills, kind of east of Marysville, north of Marysville, and a little bit of Linda. And it's got a 3-person race with John Missler, who is he's not the incumbent or the existing supervisor. That's incumbent, what that means. But he's served there for 4 years back in the 1990s. But we were talking about some of the issues in the foothills. One of the things in the foothills, we got a huge marijuana problem. And I'm not talking about individual partakers of marijuana that either want to use it for medical purposes or just for their own recreational use. So that's now legal in the California, and there are some state rules, and then they allow for some county and cities to put ordinances. In the city of Marysville, they've said They will not allow any outdoor growing. My neighbors across the street were lawless, and they just did whatever they wanted, so they had open grow in their backyard. So my feeling is, that the supervisors have fairly bungled repeatedly. I think they're on their third iteration of ordinance. It's still not right, I don't feel. I think it's still got, in other words, it's kind of like the Second Amendment. You have a right, the Second Amendment gives you a right to carry a gun. Then the government gets involved and tells you all the reasons you can't carry a gun and all the hoops you got to jump through. To me, you shouldn't have to jump through hoops if the government it has now have an ordinance that the people passed, the people voted, said you, first of all, over 10 years ago, they voted you could have marijuana for medical use. And then they voted you could have marijuana for recreational use. So why don't we just let people smoke marijuana, right, and grow marijuana in their house or in their backyard with a covering over it, okay, if it's a smell issue, right, or if it's a visual issue. But make it a covering that is inexpensive and you're not financially punishing people like the government always does when they don't really want you to do it. So they take your money. They let you do it, but they take your money. Like they call them sin taxes. So they tax cigarettes. Cigarettes you can buy in Vietnam and bring here for 90 cents a pack. They charge you like $9 a pack, right? It's just ridiculous. Same with liquor. I don't do any of it right now. Maybe you guys will drive me to do something, but right now I'm not doing any of it. So I don't have any axe to grind, or I don't have a dog in the fight, as they say. And I don't have a dispensary I'm lining up with the city of Marysville. But the interesting thing is the government, who is so hypocritical, has got layer after layer after layer of tax on this. And Marysville just you couldn't hold them back because they want the money on it. They don't give a crap about people that are struggling with their illnesses or about letting people have their constitutional or their, whatever you want to call them, their rights, legal rights to smoke marijuana in their own home. Like there's all kinds of rules. If you follow this, you can look it up on the internet. You can't go smoking walking around town. You can't smoke at the ball game. You got to smoke at your house, whatever. Or you can set up lounges or businesses where you can go smoke, but those aren't legal in Marysville yet. But the point is, it's pretty much a homeowner deal. So why not leave people alone? So that's where, if you're wondering who to vote for, John Missler, I'm sure would be for something like that. And the other thing is we've just made it so impossible to purge the cartels who are poisoning the foothills. They're killing animals up there that are coming into the grows. They're using ag chemicals that farmers can't even use. They're so toxic, and fertilizers, and they're letting it get into the groundwater system. I've farmed some. There's strict rules on this, and nobody's paying any rules up there. They're taking water without paying for it. It's totally a lawless situation, the Yuba County foothills, and it was allowed to get that way by the supervisors. And finally, after much prodding and begging, they called a state of emergency. So that's one thing. The other thing is this situation with the Yuba County Water Agency. Now they like to call themselves, they eliminated the word county because they really don't want to be affiliated with the county. So they call it the Yuba Water Agency. And the excuse they use, it's a euphemistic type excuse. They say, we people were confused about what we were, so we've eliminated the county out of it. Well, how many people still know what you are, right? It's like ridiculous. I mean, I was on the Yuba County Office of Education Board of Trustees for 12 years. I think it was 12, or I don't think it was 16. I think it was 12. People never could figure out what we did different between us and the Marysville Joint Unified School District. Did we lose sleep over it? Did we change our name? No, we just did our job, served the public, helped kids get their education, and we did not have a big panic thing or spend tens of thousands of the taxpayers' money on changing our name and running advertisements, right? But now we got so much money at the Yuba County Water Agency, we want to be this, they pretend over there, they have a little myth They have a fantasy that they own it, and it's their little thing, and they really don't want to be like there's all these, Hillary called them deplorables. Now who Biden's called them some despicables or deplorables, despicables, hobbits. They've called them all kinds of things, right? I think that's the way the water agency looks at the stupid people of Yuba County, unless they're pumpers that have a lot of money. So anyway, they're very paternalistic. You know what that means? That means they say, we know what's best for you. Typical government. We know what's best for you. You just keep your mouth shut, go to work, keep paying utility bills, and we will fix up the county as we see best, right? That's what they do. And then they put up signs that says, this project brought to you by Yuba Water Agency. So what Missler's saying is he thinks there needs to be another set of eyes on the Yuba County Water Agency. Charlie Matthews got on the Yuba County Water Agency. People elected him because he is an automatic yes man on that agency. Normally, if you have an agency where I've been on boards before, and if every time you have a vote, it's automatically everybody's yes, you haven't got the right people on your board. You just have a bunch of yes people. There needs to be disagreement at times to come to the best answer. You just don't automatically all have the same idea. So we need some fresh eyes on that board, and we need people to have input into that agency. It isn't owned by 5 supervisors plus 2 ad hoc people and a couple staff members over there. So that's another reason to have a different person on there. So I appreciated John Black's questions, and I even know John kind of took over the interview, John Black, and went on his rant about marijuana. I think a lot of people, even people that do not use marijuana, like myself, I'm just done with arguing over this thing, and I'm done with government jacking people around. And why I don't want to pay my tax dollars to hire a bunch of code enforcement guys to hassle people. That's ridiculous. I want less government harassment. I want less rules. I don't want food. I don't want the taco trucks and the taco carts to be harassed out of business and taxed out of business. Even though it doesn't matter to me whether the brick and mortar taco places have to pay a lot of stuff. That should be a government problem. That shouldn't be the problem of the carts selling whatever they're selling. And the same thing with marijuana. We just keep having to hire government official after government official after government official to go out and harass people, take their money, look at their permits, jack them around, cite them. Go get a real job. Why don't you people that are code enforcement go get a real job instead of chasing down tomato patches that you think are marijuana? All right, there was something else I was going to talk about locally, but it's slipping my mind right now. I've lost my mind. All right. This is what I'm going to get down here. I'm going to jump to something else really quick because I don't want to skip this. Sarah Sanders, Huckabee Sanders? I like to watch her when I see a YouTube clip of her she just gets attacked every single day. I mean, they are like piranhas on her, like her toes in the water, and they are like piranhas. They are so rude. They're bitches is what they are. Even the guys are bitches. There's no guys. There are no guys in that audience. They're just guys. They're women dressed like men. The whole place is like people on their period or something. They're so screwed up. It makes me angry to watch them, but I like to watch how she handles it. So I loved this when she went to this. She went with her family to Virginia. Was it Virginia? Lexington, Virginia? Is that where she went? To have, yeah. She went to Lexington, Virginia. Now, I guess on the East Coast, you go out special and you drive an hour to go to a place to eat. I would never do that. I just, I couldn't do that with a family. That's why I'm single. I just think, just give me some food. I'd just walk across the street, get a burger or whatever. I'm not going to drive an hour to go eat somewhere. I'm no fun. So anyway, they go to this Red Hen restaurant in Lexington, Virginia, and the owner comes out and starts to jack the family around, and they're having Sunday brunch or something, and tells them to get out, and then harasses them going down the street. And thank God, Lexington, Virginia has had a big downturn in tourism since that. People, thousands of people, thousands, they say. I'm talking about Lexington, Virginia, the Rockbridge Regional Tourism Board. They had to approve a measure to bolster the marketing of the area. It got so bad. People just quit going to not just that one restaurant. I think that one restaurant shut down. People quit going to the town. She said this Stephanie Wilkinson, who owned the Red Hen, she ordered Sanders and her family out of the restaurant. She then followed the family members to a restaurant across the street where she organized a protest. I wish the husband would have just went out and knocked her teeth out, just knocked her totally cold right on the street. What? Until we do that, this stuff is just going to continue on. It's just stupid stuff. But you know what I get a kick out of, and I'm thanking God for it. They're just shutting the economy down, and that, people can choose where they do business, and they did. And now they are going after Sarah Sanders' faith, right? The fact that she follows Jesus. And I'm trying to find the spot I wanted to get here. So they're mocking her. They've mocked her about everything. Her weight, her looks. They've called her they called her a slut or a whore or a floozy, or just because she dresses up and comes in and she looks nice. She looks nice. I think she's a pretty woman. She comes in, but they don't think so, right? Because she's a Republican and they hate Republican women. So they hate her Christian faith. And God-fearing, is one lady wrote, God-fearing righteous women are not threatened by the likes of those who mocked Sarah Huckabee Sanders and those who thought it was okay to do so. Truly independent women who strive to honor God understand that they are above such taunts. Those who attack them do so because they know if they lived to be 500 years old, they would never attain the excellency they envy in Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So I got a kick out of this because I went, you always wonder what she do for church. So she goes to a D.C. church, Washington, D.C., that's an affiliate of Hillsong, Hillsong in Australia. And it's a global mega church. And the article said, of all things, they teach creationism and intelligent design. And so Sanders asked if she shared these views. How dare you? You actually don't believe you came from a monkey? These people are so you got to be on LSD to think this way. Some of these people, they're totally out of their mind. She just says, you know something? I believe the Bible. That just says it all right. Go read it if you want to see what I believe. I can't believe how simple-minded are you? You actually believe that God created people and ducks and ants and stuff, or intelligent design. Some of the top people, some of the top professors in the United States, microbiologists and all kinds of people. In fact, Einstein, a lot of the amazing people that they claim are atheists knew that there was intelligence behind the whole thing. These people are so simple-minded. It's interesting that they nitpick over her church, Hillsong, right? A global big church. Oh, my God, a mega church. But they just overlooked old Jeremiah Wright's church, right? And they had homosexual dudes screwing with Obama back in the days before he became a senator. And he He was doing Michelle and the boys, or maybe Michael. I don't know whether, I haven't figured out whether she's a Michael. Have you ever figured that out, whether Barack is Brenda and she's Michael? Or whether he's a real guy and she's a real girl? I don't know. Or whether those are real. Have you ever thought, are those real, their kids? Anybody see any pregnant pictures of her? I never have. You ever seen a pregnant, where she's pregnant? No photos. Nope. Well, it's just a thought. Nothing to lose sleep over. We wish them the best. And as I say, somebody laughed at me and said, "Oh, hallelujah to you." I said, "That's what I think. Hallelujah to you." So anyhow, we got this Measure K, right? Oh, here's what I wanted. It's all coming back to me now. Thank you, Jesus. Everybody, Sutter County supervisors. You know, up there in Nevada County, same. Oroville, Butte County, same. Chico, same. I've read your articles. People freaking out about the costs. Oh, we can't afford. We got to have more money from the taxpayers. Let me help you with this, folks. Somebody said the other day that Sutter County sheriff's officers haven't had a raise. Was it 10 years, 13 years, something like that? That's a long time. No raise, right? Maybe, I don't know whether that includes no cost of living increases. They have all these things in government you don't have in the private sector. But this is what fascinates me. You will pay a guy at the top. You have all these executive positions. Like they just hired in Sutter County, the previous human resources person left, so they hired a new person, came over from Yuba County. And they could have started her at any old salary and said, "Hey, we're going broke. We don't have enough to pay our deputies. We have a huge pension liability we can't pay. So we're going to just keep the same salary that we paid the previous woman." Instead, they gave the new woman $20,000 increase. And they paid all her pension contribution. Now here's a problem. When you see government officials like supervisors and the decision makers at the top end of government, the county administrators, making these decisions to keep increasing pay on these salaries that are $200,000 and $300,000, when they're going broke, and then they're going to turn around and ask the taxpayer to bail them out, there's something wrong with that picture, people. Now, you would not do that in your own business. Why do you allow it to happen in government without saying a darn thing? Now, remind me where I am, because I'm going to jump back. And I want to, listen, people, if you think this Brett Kavanaugh thing is bad and unjust, and if I have time, I'm going to read you. This is all I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This is a coordinated conspiracy to take down Donald Trump, the whole legislature, the conservative legislature, everything. And if you just sit there and go, "Oh my," at this, instead of writing and sending emails and going on the White House website or Dianne Feinstein's website and giving them hell. I mean, Dianne Feinstein is essentially a criminal. Did anybody investigate her for having a Chinese spy as a driver for her? She hired a Chinese spy. And she made money off her husband's business dealings in China. Cut herself fat deals. Did anybody investigate her? Is anybody investigating anybody on anything on the Democrat side? But we're still got Mueller or Mueller, whatever you want to call the dude, looking for Russian collusion. And we got Chinese collusion right in the car with Feinstein, who's on the Senate Judiciary Committee. I want you to think about that for a second. Now, this gal that's accusing this Supreme Court nominee, Kavanaugh, Her brother works for Fusion GPS and all these different Russian collusion deals, and he was involved with all this baloney on this Russian collusion. All these people are connected that are pulling this off. This isn't just some random thing that happened. We'll be right back. We got one more hour to go. All right, we're here our last hour. That's exactly what's happening to my taxes. My assets are going to taxes. So we're talking about Brett Kavanaugh, and this is this thing has been planned for months. This lady is a professor, is a liberal operative. Her whole family is. Her brother, Baker Hostetler, is an attorney who worked for a group called a law firm. Let me back up. I got the name wrong. Christine Blasey Ford, or Blasey Ford, is the woman in question here that was assaulted 30-some years ago. Her brother, Ralph Blasey, works at Baker Hostetler, a law firm that hired Fusion GPS, that's at the center of this controversy, that was an entire fabricated thing of collusion between Donald Trump. You remember back in the campaign, with Trump campaign, where right at the very beginning, they said, he was in a hotel with Russian prostitutes and he was urinating on them, right? Remember that? That was Fusion GPS. They produced the unverified Steele, Steele dossier, and it's all contrived. It's fiction. And from that, we have the entire Mueller investigation. So Christine Blasey Ford's brother, Ralph Blasey's, right in the middle of that. Isn't that a coincidence? They're just, you know something, folks, when you have one coincidence after another, after another, after another, then it ain't no coincidence no mo. We just need to flush, not the swamp, the toilet. So I just wanted to leave that with you. Now, the reason I bring it up, you cannot just decide, I think, and leave it at that. Listen, this is warfare. If the midterms elections come up and the conservatives lose the House and the Senate, you just got Hillary. That's what it's going to be. So if you stay home or you don't convince your friends to vote and get them registered, it's going to make a big deal. Same thing on the local level and the state level. We never thought we'd even have a chance to have a conservative governor, but they say that John Cox is closing in on Gavin Newsom. He's down into single-digit differences. Now, it may not be accurate, maybe it is, but let me tell you this. If you don't do anything, you're going to get Gavin Newsom, who will make Jerry Brown look conservative. So if you ever thought maybe you ought to invest a little bit instead of giving it all to the government, maybe you ought to invest some of that money in a different governor who would maybe cut taxes or allow oil exploration and oil drilling again, you might want to invest. The other thing you want to do is get on Feinstein and Kamala Harris's website. You think, it's not going to do any good. No. Listen, Feinstein's in a race for her life with this Kevin Leon. They call him De Leon. He's just Kevin Leon. He changed his name to sound cool. Yeah, his name's Kevin Leon. It's like me saying Lou de Benninger, right? It's like, hey, it ain't it just had a little zip to it. Lou de Benninger. So get on those emails and blast them and tell them they're full of crap, right? And you know it, and you're not putting up with it, right? Tell Trump you're behind him. Write Senator Grassley, who's the head of that commission, and tell him to take a vote and just get it over with, right? You got to do something. Don't do nothing. Doing nothing will get you in trouble. Now, on the local level, these leaders that we have, the so-called leaders, they're not true leaders. Let me tell you, leaders, when things when leaders tell you that things are desperate, but they never make any change in their own life, they just want you to make a change in your life, that is not desperate, and that is not a leader. That's what Jesus called him a hireling. Jesus said a hireling was a shepherd that when the wolf showed up, he thought, I don't got any stake in the action here. I'm out of here. Let the sheep be eaten by the wolves. I'm not getting paid enough, right? In other words, he was in it for the money. These guys are in it for the money. They don't give a crap about Yuba Sutter County. They're just in it for the pride, for the money, and they aren't into any sacrifice. If this problem was really serious, let me tell you, people, they'll let your car blow out its tires going down 5th Street before they'll take a cut in salary, before they'll cut their supervisor's deal. They'll let people die running off a funky road before they'll cut their salaries. They think they are worth $80,000 a year. They've lost their mind. They're mentally ill. They are mentally ill. They're full of themselves. So when you have people that say, there is no other way, we got to have a tax, and then they blame it on the sheriff's department, and they pit the sheriff's department against the population, the citizens who love the sheriff's department. They pit the fire department against the citizens. Instead of cutting their salaries, looking you straight in the face, and making all these BS arguments. I wish I could say the word because I just can't do the whole conversation justice here. Making these BS arguments that, this is the most logical, reasonable, just obvious, intellectual way we need to go. No, it isn't. You don't deserve when the county is broke, you don't deserve whatever you're making, $270,000, $300,000. The head of Human Services, if she can get a better gig somewhere else, go get it. Cut her pay by $30,000. Give it to the law enforcement, right? If law enforcement is desperate, then make those hard cuts. The supervisors of all people, they meet officially twice a month. And if they don't have enough to do, they'll just skip a meeting. Twice a month. They used to meet every week. It is totally absurd. They think, there's some supervisors in Sacramento and Yuba County. They make lots more than me. I don't care what other supervisors get. We live in a little county up here. You think, I remember John Nicolay. If you don't pay them all this kind of money, you only get what you pay for. I'm so tired of hearing like you only want to get what you pay for. I'm willing for all you folks to quit, and we'll just set new salaries and we'll just deal with what we got. I think we will probably make it. Maybe subcontract out some of those jobs. I'm tired of that. I'm just so tired of hearing, we can make a lot more money elsewhere. I say, like the new lady that they hired, she may just be a wonderful person and really bright from Yuba County. When I heard, and maybe I heard wrong, but here's what I heard she said. She reminded people at the supervisors meeting she took a pay cut to come here. I thought, honey, you just said the wrong thing to Lou Benninger, right? Because I'd have told you to just, adjust your skirt, grab your briefcase, and just take your business elsewhere because we could find somebody else. People, if things are really desperate, you make some big adjustments. But these people are playing a bunch of political games, and while you're not looking, they raise the wage 20. I thought we were going broke. And right in the middle of I thought we were going broke, we give somebody a $20,000 increase in pay and pay their entire retirement. That means, like me, I pay some of these county workers say to me, "Oh, Lou, I like your show, but how come you're always hacking on county workers?" I like people. It's not the people, it's the system. So they say, "Well, I pay into my retirement." I said, "You pay something. I pay 100% into my retirement. If I want any retirement, I put money aside. You pay 5%, 9%, 10% of your pay, right? And then the government taxpayers has to pay another match that or whatever, right? In the deal of Scott Mitnick, the county administrator for Sutter County, his salary is like he farts and they got to pay him. Like if he farts 5 times, they got to pay him. It's just like, you're kidding me, man. Every time you move around, we got to pay you for that. You got to pay you for this, and then we got to pay you extra for that. Forget you. If we're in desperate shape and we want to get the county back on solid financial footing, then you guys make changes with your salaries. Why should we make changes with our business? You're the highest paid people. When you look at the average salary of government, you're the highest paid people in our community, and you don't want to adjust anything. I feel bad when law enforcement doesn't get any raises, but hey, how much are they making? Maybe starting out, they're not doing so good. It's like, well, all I'm saying is, if I wrote an article a few months ago, we can't afford the help. You know something? I haven't made one decision to get either county that I live in, Yuba Sutter. I physically live in Marysville, but I'm around Yuba Sutter. But I have not made one decision to spend any money on those boards of supervisors, city councils. I didn't create any of these problems. Those people on those councils, I was on the school board. So I'll take responsibility for stuff on the school board back in the day, but I've been out of there about 10 years now. So don't blame the citizens. They're going to work. They're paying their taxes. They're doing their business. If you want to hand out in Marysville, if you want to hand out 5-gallon cans of asphalt sealant in every block, hand out 10 or 15 cans per block, we'll fill the damn streets. We'll fill them. Just put the cans out there. Buy the material. And quit whining about it. We'll fix the 5th Street. This is crazy. But you just keep hiring people and expanding and say, oh, well, we need them. Well, if you need them, you pay for them out of your pocket. Don't be coming back and wanting to raise taxes. When you look at, I've laid it out. We got how many people? We got over 1,000 employees, part-time and full-time, in Yuba County. We got like 1 employee for every 70-some people. You're kidding me. You're going to justify that? You're going to justify that we cannot operate a 644 square mile or 624 square mile county without 1,000 or somewhere between 600 or almost 700 and 1,000 employees? I think there's about 700 full-time. A lot of those people are making 90,000 up. You think, oh, well, they're worth every penny of it. Okay, fine, you pay them. I don't want to pay them. It's too. I just can't afford it. I never even made half that money, and I don't feel jealous. It's just like, hey, I'm only one person, but we got people. The median pay out here in the county of Yuba is like in the 40s. I don't have the figure in front of me. Russ Brown could find it, I'm sure. He's the information officer. It's in the 40s. And so we got people that are making, a lot of those people in Yuba County making 100 or above. The other thing that's fascinating to me, you think, oh, the people just in the government just write these things off. I think there's like 50-some employees in the city of Marysville. Of 50-some employees, they say, oh, yeah, we want to raise taxes. We're all behind raising taxes. I think only 3 of them live in the city. So that means over 50 employees, or about 50 employees, do not have to pay that 1% tax. And they say, well, Lou, anybody could leave the city and buy wherever they want. No, they can't. Not with cars. You buy anything that has to go through the DMV, you're stuck with that tax even if you buy it in outer Slumbodia. You're screwed. You know, people, it just isn't right. We got people that are living, firefighters and cops don't even live within 50, 100 miles of here. They're driving in. They're living in nice subdivisions, and they pay all their taxes up there. They take money from here, pay the taxes in some other community. How fair is that? Say, well, you can't control where people live. I'm not into control. I'm just saying. We got a problem. We need to discuss how to fix it, not just keep going back to the same pot and dipping money out of poor people's pockets. That's what we're doing on Measure K. And then they portray it like, oh, well, we hate police and fire, and then you throw in the two guys that were shot as if it was the taxpayers' fault. You know whose fault that was? Let's talk supervisors. Let's talk to supervisors dragging their feet on getting the National Guard up here, dragging their feet on getting state Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement, dragging their feet on getting other counties up here and kicking some ass up there in Yuba County. It isn't the taxpayers' fault. They're paying their taxes. It's your fault. You want to put some blame. The supervisors are the ones that were restricting these budgets. The supervisors that meddled with the sheriff's funding all the way back when they started getting the immigration money is the supervisors. Maybe not the present five. I get a kick out. I mentioned earlier, John Nicoletti in the Appeal Democrats said, well, you only get what you pay for. Well, it's interesting. We hired John Nicoletti came into the Board of Supervisors when they were making probably $40,000 a year when you add on all the benefits. And by the time he left, he figured out he was worth a lot more because he doubled the thing. He voted to double it. And then when Andy Vasquez suggested reducing it just a little bit, they just mocked him. Just mocked him. And I think Roger Abbey suggested it at one time too. They just mocked him. Say, oh, you guys are just making a political grandstanding. Oh, was it? Oh, really? You know something? You people are such hypocrites. You're liars. You're liars and you're hypocrites. You stand up there, you sit up there with a straight face and like you're Mr. Efficient and you're Mr. Wisdom. And you're pocketing all kinds of money. You're pocketing tens of thousands of money from private developers, big business, kicking cannabis growers, hundreds of thousands of dollars before it's over each year to run your campaigns and to bless your little operation. And then you come and you just shove these taxes down people's throat, and then you walk away and you don't give a crap about Yuba County. You won't even live in Yuba County. You'll retire somewhere else, and you're sucking the money off Yuba County residents till you drop dead and laugh all your way to the bank. You don't care about Yuba County. The people that care about Yuba County are the people that actually live here and remain here. A lot of these administrators and directors, they're not mandated. It isn't mandatory they live here, and they choose not to live here. So don't be portraying that, oh, you got some skin in the game. You don't have any skin in the game here. Don't be giving me that. So that's what's going on. Measure K. Oh, they got a little star on Measure K like it's a badge. Totally illegal, but they do it because they know that the public is not going to hire attorneys to file an injunction against this entire measure K is illegal on the ballot. The whole write-up, they're using hundreds of thousands of dollars of our own tax. So they used our tax dollars instead of paving the damn roads, instead of fixing things. They used it to raise money, take more of your money. They took your money and turned around and used it to take more of your money. And then they make you feel guilty, like a couple deputies got shot, or they're shorthanded, and then they start to threaten you, like, well, maybe we can't show up on time up in the foothills on a medical aid. And they don't tell you the fact that Bi-County Ambulance will be there and a fire department will be there because they're already up there, instead of thinking that they're not going to have a deputy to drive up there. Medical aids, most of them, they don't even need a deputy. You didn't know that, did you? Well, I do. They just shove them BS all over you. When you see Robert Bendorf and take $50,000 off his salary, when you see the supervisors cut their salaries in half, you think, oh my God, Lou, that's a lot. It's not a lot. What do they do? What do they do? You think that you ever see them out patching a road or anything? It's just hot air, dude. I've been on these boards. I know what goes on. Oh, that's so much hard work. It is. Come on, man. I've been on boards. I don't know. I haven't been on a lot of these things, but I've been on school boards. I know something about this. I've not been a supervisor. You want me to take the job for $40? I'd do it in my sleep. plus go back and forth to Vietnam, run projects there, and run TIP. It's no big deal. I can do that. I'm busier than all those people. Not all of them together, but in each individual, I'll put my schedule up against any one of them. So don't come talking to me like you're worth all this in a bag of chips. You're not. And so to with a straight face, talk crap to all the taxpayers of Yuba County, you're full of it. That's what you are. You're just full of it. And to take $80,000 a year and instead of like cutting yours and giving it, why don't you, and make a statement. If all 5 of you supervisors just say, you know something, we're cutting all our salaries and we're at max, of all the benefits, we're going to cut it in half and we're giving it all those values. We're going to give it to, Yuba County Sheriff's Department. And we're going to quit giving Yuba County Water Agency $400,000 a year in property taxes when they got $600 million in reserves. And we're giving all $400,000 of property taxes we've been siphoning off for Yuba County Water Agency, and we're giving that to the Sheriff's Department. Let's start making some radical adjustment. Thought we wanted to get radical here. Instead of radical, here's what they do. They hire some slick firm and a couple like hookers, public relation hookers, that'll work for anybody as long as you throw a bone their way. And they take our tax money and screw us with it, right? It's like taking your own gun and shooting you with it. Somebody taking your gun away and shooting you with it. That's what's going on here, Measure K. You need to vote no on Measure K, and you need to vote yes on Measure 6. And don't believe the baloney that's thrown your way. If you don't know what if you don't know what's going on, you better figure it out. Or just do what I tell you. You'll do the right thing if you pay attention to me. So we're going to be right back. We got 30 minutes to go. And if you don't like what we're talking about, you can always go watch like Bert and Ernie. Welcome back. We just got a few minutes here to go before we get to noon, and then, as I mentioned earlier, we have a sports talk show that follows us up. So if you want to get like the scoop on what's shaking this weekend on probably football, is a big thing right now, listen in. Well, I want to mention, although we're about a month away, just a month away, I have a flyer here on my desk about the NRA, the National Rifle Association. This is Yuba Sutter Friends of NRA, and I am a member of NRA. I'm just not a member. I actually contribute funds to them beyond a membership, and I've never been to one of these, but I thought, whoa, there's lots of guns you can win at though. You ever been to one of these? No? Anyway, it looks pretty cool, and there's going to be a big event at the Yuba Sutter Fairgrounds on October 20. That's a Saturday night. Doors open at 5 o'clock. Month away, 442 Franklin Avenue. So this is, anybody can come. You don't need to be a member. And you can just have some fun, be a big dinner. The event tickets start at $60, so I think you're in on winning some prizes at $60. They do not sell tickets at the door, which is different for me. Normally places I go, you can grab a ticket at the door, but it says you can get tickets by calling 635-1956, 635-1956, and then you can make, say, Friends of the NRA. The check can be made to them. You can mail it to 1650 Sierra Avenue, number 201, Yuba City. 1650 Sierra Avenue, number 201, Yuba City, 95993. Or you could just go online, and you could go to friendsofnra.org, and they say you can get tickets there. Probably Friends of NRA maybe cover more than one chapter. I don't know. I've never done that way before. But it looks like a fun event, and there's huge number of guns and raffle prizes. Really cool. So anyway, check it out. And there is no other organization that matches the NRA for protecting our. Let me just say it another way. If it wasn't for the NRA, we would have lost our Second Amendment rights, I think. Don't you think that, Wikiman? Yeah. I mean, they're the bright bulbs out there, and maybe you don't think that's a big deal. It has nothing to do with whether you have a gun or not. It's the fact that that right is reserved for us, not to protect ourselves, not to shoot a pheasant, but to shoot the government. That's what it's for. It's to shoot a tyrannical government. It's to protect yourself against the government. You think, oh, I never understood that. That sounds intense. It is intense. The fact that the government of the United States is in your business. Have you seen this? Did you know that Google, last time I was in China, I was in Shenzhen, and about 4 years ago now, I think, and I had my computer with me, and I couldn't get on Google, right? They block you off the internet, right? Now Google is wanting to be over there, and in order to do that, they have created a program that the Chinese government can track everything you're doing, plus have your phone number attached so they can just come after you right away. And Google has enabled the Chinese to do that, to control their people. So if you think that the people that run Google or Facebook or Yahoo or all these different various sites that you're benefiting from social media, Twitter, they're socialists. They're not like liberals. They're not Democrats. They're socialists. And they think that communism is the way to go. That's why they're over there. They'll give the Chinese whatever they want. So the Chinese are putting people in prison for what they're doing on the internet. Nothing different than what you're doing. Just expressing your freedom of speech. You don't have that in China. So the Google people are enabling the Chinese to go after their own people by hooking up and giving them full surveillance, including their cell phone number connected to their computers, everything. It's all tied together. It's on the news. Have you paid attention? Did you know that the Chinese are of course, if you're not a Christian, you probably say, I don't care about that. The Chinese are persecuting Christians, church people, harassing them, put them in jail. And I know you're not even going to believe this, but all you have to do is do some research and look up the book The Slaughter and read it. And people are being put in prison, and their organs are being harvested and sold to foreigners or other people that want to pay the money. There's actually an industry in organ sales. And they're not taking the organs out of a car crash victim. They're taking the organs out of political prisoners that they call them political prisoners. So they're either people that are believers in God or the Falun Gong. Look it up in the on the internet, Falun Gong. Millions of them have been incarcerated. Or just straight up political prisoners, people that are resisting the government oppression. And all of a sudden they just do a DNA match. If you need a kidney, you go over there and they'll do a DNA match for you and give you a kidney, and we'll eliminate one prisoner and pop the kidneys out for you and get your kidney. You may not believe me. It's okay. By the way, this has been so fun, this Hurricane Florence for me. Have you seen the posts on Facebook where it shows the weather guy? He's leaning really to the one side so the wind doesn't blow him over, and behind two teenagers just walk straight up, just like walking down the street. Well, now they've got pictures of flooded streets, and now they've photoshopped sharks in there and whales. They got a submarine going down the street. It is so hilarious, man. You know what I appreciate about Americans, man? They can just mock the crap out of these liars, these cheats, these liars on the media. They had a submarine. They got a guy in a little canoe boat, and then right next to him is a submarine going by. Right down the street, you can see it's just a couple feet of water, right? And then they got that Anderson Cooper, the little ferry, And so the cameramen are standing on basically concrete. He's down in a ditch, so he wants to have water up to his waist, so it appears on TV like the whole place is flooded, right? So he just got on a low spot. He's got waders on and standing out there. I wish the guy would get electrocuted or something. Got the cord running through the water. I mean, this thing is so fraudulent, all these things. And then Puerto Rico blaming Trump. It's a wonder they don't blame Trump for all the chickens and hogs that got flooded in this Florence thing, but blaming Trump for this Puerto Rico. They got remember the mayor in Puerto Rico that said that we weren't helping? They're still finding 40-foot shipping containers full of food that are rotted that they never even opened. They never eat. They were so poorly coordinated, such imbeciles in Puerto Rico, they could not even get the food out of the container and give it to starving, or I don't even know they're starving, but people that needed the food. They're still finding rotted food. And they finally got the gal, the mayor of Puerto Rico, they got her on corruption charges. I mean, it's just like Ray Nagin down in New Orleans back in Hurricane Katrina. I mean, it is so much baloney. And everything is Trump's fault. I'm sure they'll figure out how all those chickens, 40,000, 50,000 chickens drowning were somehow. I remember when we had the flood here in, what was it? It was in, was it 96, 97? So Gary Tyndall, who was sheriff then, at that time the supervisors had to decide whether to evacuate or not instead of the sheriff, which is a really bad idea. So Tyndall says, hey, we need to evacuate, right? The water was like really high. And they said, no, we're not going to evacuate. And so what happened was when the levee broke, that people had no time. He wanted to get people out early so you could get your livestock, your cattle, your horses, your goats, your chickens, your dogs. You could pack. You could have time to leave. Flooded. Tyndall got blamed for it. And because the sheriff then blocked all the roads because it was flooding, and they wouldn't let them go in there and get their cattle, so they got blamed. So the supervisors made the stupid decision. Nowadays, they turn that decision back to the sheriff's department, which it should have been. They're the emergency responders, right? It's just crazy how this works. So CalPERS, we've been talking about the counties and the cities of California all freaking out. In fact, in Orange County alone, I have an article here. I think seven cities in Orange County alone are all asking either for a 1 or a 1.5. I think Santa Ana wants 1.5%. So extra sales tax. So the interesting thing is the dysfunction at CalPERS. So recently, CalPERS, for instance, California Public Employees Retirement System, and then that's different from CalSTRS, California State Teachers Retirement System. Okay, CalPERS, though we focus mainly on CalPERS. It's in the worst shape. They manage $360 billion in pension assets for 1.9 million workers. Let me ask you, if you just had you were working and you worked on your own, you had your own business, and you were looking for somebody to manage your finances for your retirement, would you ever think of giving it to the government? It's just like, hell no. It's so bizarre. So they manage pension assets for 1.9 million workers and health coverage for 1.4 million workers and their families. And so recently they've had some blunders in hiring. So they have the CalPERS executive officer. Chief executive officer is a lady named Marcy Frost. Marcy Frost, there's a little confusion about Marcy. You would think, now she makes, this is so amazing, Marcy Frost earns $387,000 a year. That's almost the same amount as the President of the United States. She does not have, I'm not all big on college diplomas, okay? I dropped out of college, and I know a lot of bright people who never went to college, and I know a lot of really stupid people who got a certificate on the wall. Marcy Frost never went to college, never graduated from college, okay? This gal has worked her way up the ladder from working for these state pension organizations, including up in Washington, and she got hired as a CEO running the pension operation of the state of California and making $387,000. Now, you say, so what, right? If she's got the beef, let her run it. I totally agree with you. I think if she's a brainiac, if she's brilliant, and I don't care whether she's got a high school degree, frankly, if she proved herself and they hired like an Einstein to run that operation, hallelujah to you. But there's been some confusion and there's been some screw-ups. So a lot of people rave about her, but in her, what's written about her, she claimed, some people claimed, well, some of them people are saying all kinds of things. Some are saying she never claimed she did have a 4-year degree. And they don't require a 4-year degree to run the biggest pension program in the United States of America. Now, sometimes I look at jobs and I think I could do that job. And then they'll say, well, you need a degree. And I'll say, well, I don't have a degree, so I'm not going to be able to apply for that, right? So anyway, when she gave her bio or her resume, she claimed that she was in the midst of getting her degree, and she said it was from this place called Evergreen College. So I was going to talk about Evergreen College last week, but I didn't get around to it. Evergreen College is when they had some really funky demonstrations on campus when it got really out of hand. And so this year, their admissions are down 50%, and all paid by the taxpayers. So she was going to go to this Evergreen College because she's up there in Washington, right? Then she claimed she was doing an online deal. In other words, she was saying, I don't have the degree, but I'm getting it. And then she said, I'm going for a dual degree. I'm going for my master's and my bachelor's at the same time. But Evergreen College says we don't offer a master's and bachelor's simultaneous degree. We don't offer that. And if you want to use they do offer credit for past experience, but they said that's not a master's, that's just a bachelor's, where we credit you for some past experience. Anyway, so there's a controversy over Marcy Frost. Now, it's interesting, this CalPERS just cannot seem to run smooth. It's like a car that you cannot get tuned up properly. You keep sending it in a mechanic. So anyway, under her watch, they hired a chief financial officer named Charles Asubonten, 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 Bonten, don't know, Charles Asubonten. Chief financial officer. Now, you'd think the chief financial officer over now that's a lot of money, $360 billion. Just say that, just think about that for a minute, $360 billion. Okay, the chief financial officer, that's a main duck, right? This guy got fired recently because he turned in a fraudulent resume. Somebody checked on his resume, and he hadn't graduated. He hadn't done what he claimed he'd done. So they canned him. Now, Asubonten was hired under and by Marcy Frost, right? So all you guys that you're not going to go for a reform of CalPERS. You're going to stick with CalPERS. You're going to do more of CalPERS, and you just got some nutcases down there running this thing, right? Marcy Frost may be the nicest person and the brightest person around, but they hired a liar. Is there anybody honest out there anymore? Is there anybody in government that is honest? I mean, you got people saying, I went to this college. I got this kind of degree. The description here says he was fired, Mr. Asubonten, when it emerged that his resume was full of holes. Now, literally, that didn't mean gunshot holes. He's a liar. and he got himself hired to a job that probably made $300,000 or more. In fact, Governor Brown just put a guy over there that used to work for him. You know, Governor Brown's leaving because he's finishing his term. So he's finding jobs. You know, if you work for the governor, he's not going to leave you unemployed, right? So he just gives you these posts. He just hands out. It's like Christmas down there right now. And so he gave this guy that's one of his chief financial guys for a budget, he just gave him a job over there, I think, as assistant chief financial officer. He makes about $300,000 or something. And then he put him on another board. I don't know whether it's CPUC, another board. He's on two boards. Together, he's making almost $500,000 a year. Now, when these guys start telling how the government's having a hard time and they're short of money, and then they blame the taxpayers, something, you got to be smoking too much of the weed to not be able to sort that out. So the problem is here, as it says in this deal, it says at Evergreen College, she claimed Marcy Frost claimed that she was taking these writing courses, that she needed to get these degrees, and she needed to do some writing. Participants in the prior learning program are required to take 2 writing courses. CalPERS spokesman Wayne Davis said Frost enrolled in the courses in 2010 but didn't submit any writing samples before her career took off in Washington. Then she abandoned the whole thing. So anyway, it'll be interesting, all you CalPERS people. I'm just looking down to see if any other juicy tidbits out of this. You CalPERS people, you're in deep trouble. Okay. Azu Bonton took office as CalPERS chief financial officer just September 2017. Press release announced his hiring, said that most recently he was a managed director in a private equity firm. Any reasonable due diligence performed before he was hired surely would have revealed that he didn't have all the experience he claimed, and that the experience he did have didn't come close to qualifying him for the CFO of the largest public pension fund in the country. The private equity firm was a mail drop outside Washington, D.C., and he had bestowed the title of managing director on himself. In other words, the place was a total fraud. He said he was the director of some private equity firm. It was just a mail drop and a door. No, there was nothing. It was just a total fraud. This guy was the head of the entire finances of CalPERS that all of you want us to pay extra taxes for you to get paid from. You people are full of crap out there. You're just absolutely nuts. I'm done here, I think. Are we done? We're done. I'll see you next week, maybe. All right. I don't know whether we'll be live or recorded.